The Great Barrier Reef, Preserving the Barrier by Danica, Denman.
And Avviana, Pickle. The Great Barrier Reef is the seventh out of the seven wonders of the world. This is due to the many thousands of organisms that inhabit it. The formation of the reef occurred around 2,000 years ago by oceanic organisms. After the last ice age, the temperature of the water dropped 64.4 degrees Fahrenheit, making the temperature adequate for the organisms to begin building the reef. Over time, these organisms have come together today to build what we know as an endangered habitat. If we do not act soon, this beauty will be no more. The Great Barrier Reef is dying due to rising water temperatures, pollutants, and excessive carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is resulting in the coral of the Great Barrier Reef to become bleached, which would lead to its own extinction. Around 50 years ago, the Great Barrier Reef provided a barrier which blocked rough waves from hitting the shore. This stopped floods, storms, erosion of the land, property damage, and even went as far as saving lives. Not only is the coral home to an abundant amount of oceanic organisms, but it also protects the shoreline of Australia. The first founder of the Great Barrier Reef was Captain James Cook. In 1770, Cook ran his ship called the HMS Endeavour aground on the bottom of the reef. Attempting to stop his ship, he let down an anchor. Unfortunately, his anchor was stuck and he could not pull it back up. After a whole day of the Endeavour stuck in the reef, the anchor broke and Cook continued to search. The captain had a fleet of ships that were headed to Sydney Cove on January 27th of 1788. By exploring the Great Barrier Reef, he then started the further exploration of the reef in the 1900s.
Australia's Great Barrier Reef is home to a tremendous array of endangered species, some found nowhere else in the world, but all of this is in great danger. The World Wildlife Fund states the reef is highly vulnerable. In the past 3 decades, it has lost half its coral cover. Pollution has caused deadly starfish outbreaks, and global warming has produced horrific coral bleaching. Coastal development also looms as a major threat. Several species, including dugongs and loggerhead and green sea turtles, have been listed under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. But this vast reef, with its incredible wildlife and rare seagrass that provides food for dugongs, is now at risk. From the U.S. government.
U.S. Export-Import Bank, which finances development projects worldwide, has approved $5 billion in American financing for the construction of 2 massive liquefied natural gas plants in Queensland, Australia. The facilities will be built within the boundaries of the Great Barrier Reef area. This will eliminate the seagrass habitat and increase tanker traffic across the reef by 13%. Strandings of endangered dugongs and sea turtles have skyrocketed, while local fishermen's catch has plummeted due to contaminated sediment in the waters. While many species of animals are dying from the pollution in the ocean, so is the algae that live on the reef. The Great Barrier Reef is dying due to rising water temperatures, pollutants, and excessive carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is resulting in the coral of the Great Barrier Reef to become bleached and will result in its own extinction.
Around 50 years ago, the coral of the reef provided a barrier that stopped rough waves from crashing into the shore of Australia. As you can see on this map of the Great Barrier Reef, the dark blue reef once protected the shore but has thinned due to global warming and pollution. This stopped floods, storms, erosion of the land, property damage, and even went as far as saving lives. Not only is the coral home to an abundant amount of oceanic organisms, but it also protects the shoreline of Australia. The reef's health, however, is also threatened by other factors. Some marine scientists noted that coral coverage on the reef fell by nearly 50% between 1985 and 2012 as a result of damage caused by coral bleaching, invasive species such as the crown of thorns starfish, and tropical cyclones.
A news article published by UNESCO titled Case Studies on Climate Change and World Heritage explains 70% of the world's ocean deep sea corals are expected to be affected by changing conditions related to rising temperatures and increased ocean acidification by the year 2100. The Great Barrier Reef, Australia, is expected to be subjected to increasingly frequent bleaching events, cases in which corals turn white and may die due to rising sea temperatures. 85% of the world's coral reefs, home to hundreds of thousands of fish species, are considered to be at risk. The natural barrier that the reef provides is being removed due to the temperature of the
In
Pacific
total,
Ocean
the reef
rising.
is 384,000 square kilometers, or 134,634 square miles. In that insane range of land, 1,500 different species of fish, 400 species of coral, 4,000 mollusks, and 6 species of sea turtles have made it their home. In total, that is almost 6,000 different species that we are murdering. People are disregarding the effects of throwing their plastic water bottle on the ground. What they do not realize is, in around 30 years, all of the reefs will be bleached. The 400 species of coral will be no more, which will cause all of the organisms to die. Our oceans need immediate help. This beautiful barrier is at the verge of being broken.
During Australian politician Larissa Waters' speech, The Great Barrier Reef, Matter of Public Importance, she explains that she enjoyed her visit to the Great Barrier Reef and was even touched by its beauty. Waters considers the reef as a biodiversity wonderland due to all of the different species that inhabit it. The Great Barrier Reef met all of the needed criteria for the outstanding universal value, allowing it to be inscribed in the World Heritage List of 1981. The Australian politician states, the Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral ecosystem in the world, and in fact, it is the largest living organism that can be seen from space. It is an internationally renowned biodiversity icon, and it is the 7th natural wonder of the world. The reef is such an amazing and large iconic organism to let wash away. To make matters even worse, Queensland's government began treating the Great Barrier Reef like a toilet bowl by letting the coal miners dump their polluted water into waterways that flow into the reef.
Around 40 years ago, the Great Barrier Reef was vibrant with the color of algae. In 2016, 93% of the reef was bleached. 93%. English broadcaster, writer, and naturalist David Attenborough revisits the Great Barrier Reef after nearly 60 years. His visit takes him from the most exposed part of the reef as well as down to 300 miles below the surface, discovering corals never seen before. His mission was to explore the reef's diverse residents and visitors in ways we never could before, to learn more of its surprising origins and to save it from its most serious threat, mankind. Attenborough explained all of the amazing oceanic organisms that could be found in the reef.
The reef was once a magical piece of art, and letting it die is truly a tragedy. Robinson Meyer states, once upon a time, there was a city so dazzling and kaleidoscopic, so braided and water-rimmed, that it was often compared to a single living body. It clustered around a glimmering emerald spine, which astronauts could glimpse from orbit. It had warm nooks and crannies, each a nursery for life. It opened into radiant iris-colored avenues, which tourists crossed oceans to see. The city was, the experts declared, the planet's largest living structure. Many people had loved the city, but none of them could protect it. No firefighters, no chemicals, no intervention of any kind could stop the destruction. As the heat plundered the city of its wealth, only the experts could respond with careful, mournful observation.
The Great Barrier Reef is dying due to rising water temperatures, pollutants, and excessive carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The condition of the coral has gotten worse over the past 30 years and is in grave danger for the future. In 1770, the Great Barrier Reef was discovered in Queensland, Australia by Captain James Cook. Since then, factors like the sun, air pollution, and rising water temperatures have bleached the coral. This is killing the inhabitants of the reef, and ocean life is also dying due to a loss of food. As the ocean is absorbing nearly 30% of the CO2 in the air, and the sun is shining down even hotter than before, the ocean's water temperatures are rising. The warmer water causes the coral to expel the algae, and this turns the coral white. If the algae never returns, the coral dies. Not only is the coral home to many sea creatures, but it also protects currents and waves from damaging the shoreline of Australia. If the coral reef dies, then so will an abundant amount of our sea life, which will cut out much of our food. Over time, the barrier of this reef has been broken, and more than a quarter of the reef is dead. If mankind does not act soon, our oceans are set up for extinction.